Acumatica demo reporting.
So within Acumatica, the next section we're going to do after we covered our customer portal, the next section on our circle diagram is reporting. And in reporting, we're going to cover some information about our standard reports within the system, some section on our financial reports, which are reports that basically have an understanding of debit and credit logic versus just a standard report, which understands positive and negative numbers. And then we'll also touch on our generic inquiries as well. So as we go back into the system, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and run a basic standard report within the system. So we'll go over to distribution, sales, and reports. And we'll go ahead and pick our sales order details by customer, just pulling up a report. And the first thing you can see is some of the settings. We can run it for one customer. We can run it for all customers. We can put a date range around it. Which items do we want it to show up? So it gives us an ability to further filter the report down a bit. We can also save different variations of the report. We could say, here's a sales by customer report for our best customer and one for all of our customers, or for warehouse 1 versus warehouse 2. However, what makes sense. But we can save these various variations of the report and have as many of them as we like. But we'll go ahead and run the report wide open. And from here, we're going to be able to see, the basic information about the report. But most importantly, we're going to be able to, on the actual transaction for this particular customer, for the details for this customer, the ability to drill down on the actual sales orders or the invoices, the actual transactions. So in essence, they're almost live reports. It's not a static report that just has printed on the page, but our ability to drill down back to the source document is actually very critical to being able to get to the information in the system. And that's really what all these systems are simply a repository of your data. So any chance we have to be able to drill back down to the information that's feeding the report is going to make it that much easier for you to use the system. So along the next lines, we have the next and end reports. We can also click on the ability to filter it by customer, and we just clicked on the one icon by our groups, and then we can click on a specific customer, and now we've jumped over to theirs. So it's almost like a tabular report where it's sales order details by customer, customers are the group. We click on the group button, and now we can start saying, I need something for this customer. And it'll jump right to them, show us all their transactions. So makes it very easy to be able to deal with the information and chop it up into much easier ways of accessing, especially very large reports, to jump to the customer we're looking for. And this is going to be true about all those standard reports are always going to have that group button available to us. We can then print it, we can then send the report out, or we can export it to Excel. So if we do decide to export it to Excel, it's going to go ahead and open up Excel for us. And all the information is now parsed exactly the way we saw it on the report, is now in how the report is going to look within Excel. So that ability to export or get data out into an Excel format, obviously very easy for us to be able to do, just a click of a button. We can also send it, so we can email this report out to somebody outside of the company or somebody within the company. So dispersing the information is also going to be very easy for us to do as well. So that's an example of what we'll call a standard report within the system. The other type of report we have is more along the lines of a financial report. So here we might pull up a profit and loss by comparative, maybe a year-over-year type of thing. So as we're running this report, in our financial report writer, it's very important to understand that we have a set of what's called column definitions, which are our periods in time. So in this case, we're looking at period to date for 2015 versus period to date for 2014, and then a variance column. So we have a column definition that allows us to have that point in time versus a period to date this year, period to date last year. So year-to-date and period-to-date column definitions along with a variation. So once we set up our column definition, well, then we set up our row definition. So a row definition, in this case for a P&L, it's all of our sales and our expense account type of our expense GL accounts grouped together the way we need them to. So we have a row definition which defines our GL accounts and how are they going to be summed up. This group of GL accounts, I want to sum it up to get from sales revenue to sales freight to sales with expenses on it. Add those 3 GL accounts up and call it total sales. And that's what that row is going to be. So we have a row definition which says how do we want the rows to look and what information are we including at the row level. And then the last section would literally be the groups, or if we have this set up with what's called a unit set, we would then be able to break it down by, let's say, the branches. If we've rolled up from our Virginia branch to our headquarters branch, and then collectively, what's the total across branches? So we have that ability, if we defined a unit set for this report, to be able to have everything roll up and maybe just see a P&L for just the Virginia subsidiary versus the headquarters branch. So giving us that flexibility of having one basic report, but it could be consolidated at the high level and then for the 2 branches at the lower levels. And our groups are going to be able to define that based on the unit set that was defined for that particular report. Another way of using the groups might be as sub-accounts or for like a product group. Maybe we want to get a profit and loss statement for a group of our items. How well did they do for a particular point in time? So we could use our unit set to filter by a sub-account. That would allow us to say, well, here are our electronic items, our industrial items, our food items. Each one of those is a product group defined by a sub-account. And the sub-accounts would now be the groups that we could then filter on, making it a lot easier to be able to see, well, which of our item groups are giving us the most profit, and then which ones should we order more of because this is where we're making most of our money. So it allows us to really be very interactive with our reports to be able to help us better manage the organization. And, the last type of report we have is what's called a generic inquiry. We want to pull information out of the system and we want to be able to, and it's not defined as a standard report, it's not a financial report, but we want to grab information out. Maybe we want to make that the basis of a dashboard and how we get information out, or possibly make it the basis of an OData feed. We would collect that information for wherever we want to use it based on a generic inquiry. So we'll go over to System, Customization, and Generic Inquiry, and we'll go ahead and pull up one of our existing inquiries. Sales, orders, and quotes. And what this allows us to do on the first tab called Tables is define, well, which tables, where are we going to grab this information from? We don't have to worry about writing the actual SQL query for the inquiry. We just have to tell the system, what do we want to get? We want to get customer information and order information. Okay, grab those tables. How do they relate to each other? How do these 2 tables relate? So we'll pick the relationship between the sales order and the customer tables. And next we'll pick the parameters of, how are we going to filter this report? Maybe we want to have a combo box for the type of order that is. Is it a quote or is it an order? We want a combo box to be able to select that and then filter the data to just this group. So our parameters allows us to do that. And then we have different groupings for the report or different conditions of how it's going to exist, how we're going to collect this information. And really, finally, the results grid. So we have these tables, they're joined together, and now we just want to select, well, what do we actually want to select out of these tables? And that's going to be in our results grid to allow us to group these items together. We would then also be able to select a view inquiry. So we've created our inquiry. Well, let's see what actual data we're getting now. And the view inquiry makes that very easy for us to be able to see the data that we're going to collect and give us that ability to use it wherever we need to at that point. So very easy to get the data because we're not writing the SQL query. You don't have to worry about syntax and where commas go and how the brackets look. We really just have to tell the system what and where and what order we want to get them. So it does make it very easy to grab this particular data. And just like before with our standard report, we have the export to Excel. And then we also have now with 5.1 the ability to send this out to an OData feed. So we've collected the data, we can now send it to OData and now let it do whatever it's going to do with the software, with the data. But the basis of collecting this information is going to be this generic inquiry. And really at this point what we're able to do is we can now create a dashboard from this inquiry. So we can make it either as a table or as a chart. We'll go ahead and select table. And then from this table, well, which fields do we want to collect? And then where do we want to put it? Well, let's say we want to put it over on our controller dashboard. We'll just click the controller dashboard, click OK. And then when we go back to our dashboards, we'll pick the controller dashboard, and here is that sales and quotes widget now that we can now manipulate into the space for this particular dashboard. So how do we get information up to a dashboard? Well, the generic inquiry. So we just told the system what we wanted, and then where do we want to put it? In this case, we wanted to put it on a dashboard. So as we look back on our reporting section, we had standard reports, which were in essence a live report. We could drill down from the report to the base documents. We had our financial reports, which are our P&Ls, our balance sheets, made up of column definitions and row definitions. So really any combination. If we wanted to do month-over-month financials for the year and have January, February, March, April, we could do that. So we could see how we're doing in the year. And then we could break that down by the unit set. So we have our columns, our rows, but the unit set is going to say, well, do I want to do it by branches of the organization to see how I'm doing over how Doug's branch is doing? Or do I want to see it based on how our electrical items were doing over our HVAC items? So it gives us that ability to do a P&L not only by a location or a subsidiary, but also by a product line, which makes it very powerful to help us better manage the organization, because now we can get this real-time information. We don't have to wait to close a period out or close a year out. We can get these anytime we wanted to. And then lastly, we covered our generic inquiries, which is our way of getting at data, in essence, an ad hoc report writer that allowed us to say, well, give me information from these tables, and these are the fields that I want to be able to grab and put them together this way, and here's how I want to select it when I run the report. But at no time was I actually writing code. I was just telling the system what I wanted. So much easier for a non-developer to be able to create these generic inquiries. And once the generic inquiry was written, we were able to say, well, do I want to export it to Excel? Do I want to send it to an OData? Do I want to just make a dashboard out of it? And these were just like drop-down options at this point. I wanted to put it on the controller dashboard because that's what makes sense for me. Great. Just do the drop-down. Dashboard. It's a table. Where did I want to put it? So it's a very easy system to be able to put this information there. And ultimately, all of this is going to allow you to hopefully better manage your business because the right people are getting the right information in a timely fashion to make better business decisions.